another support webinar or workshop, or however Jamie's planning on running this. This is Jamming on the Jamboard with Jamie Trujillo. We love Jamie. Let me admit this other person here. And I'm going to go ahead and mute myself because apparently my dogs are barking. So if you need any help, please put information, questions in the chat. I'll be moderating that and I will help you out as best I can. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jamie and let's have some fun.
Thank you so much, Kristen. So as Kristen said, we're going to be talking about Jamboard today. So there will be a part where I'm going to show you how to create and work with a Jamboard live. Please feel free to open up your tab and do that with me, or just watch. It's totally up to you. If you cannot see my screen for some reason, please put that in the chat and Kristen can help you out with that. And let's just get going with it. So what is Jamboard? That is the first question, right? What is Jamboard? Well, Jamboard is an interactive whiteboard system that was developed by Google. It's a relatively new Google feature, and it's part of the Google Workspace. And for those of you who have taught in person, which is probably all of you, you know the importance of using a whiteboard, whether it be for math or for science or for writing. And so now that most of us are having to work digitally 100%, or at least part of the time, it's great to have this whiteboard feature. And Jamboard is, just like all other Google products, absolutely free. They do, just so you know, sell smart boards. There is actually something called a Google Jamboard that is a physical smart whiteboard that someone on a computer can see what you're writing, and they can write and it will show up on your whiteboard. But those, of course, as you know, can be pretty pricey. So the great thing about Jamboard is that it runs even without that physical Google Smartboard. It is available just through Google. So Jamboard has a lot of really great features. Some of them are the same kind of features that you would find on a regular whiteboard, and there are others that are unique to the virtual environment. So with Jamboard, you can change the background in a lot of different ways, depending on what you are doing. What's really great is you can have a plain white background, but you can also give it a paper look with dotted lines or even solid lines. So if you're doing a writing assignment and you want to write on the actual lines, you can do that. And I'll show you all of this in a little while. There's also a graph grid. So if you're doing a lesson on coordinate geometry, you can also use that graph grid, which is really great. You can also change the color of your background. You can change it to blue or black if the white background is just too bright or too much for you or your students. You can just change the color of that. You can handwrite text just like you would with a dry erase marker on a dry erase board. You can do that. And you can use your mouse for that, or we'll talk about it in a little bit. You can use a pen mouse or a smart pen for that. You can add quote unquote sticky notes. So these would be virtual sticky notes, but they do look just like any other sticky note to kind of, throw ideas on there, to write questions. You can add images, which is really great because you can share different images and have people respond to that. And you can use a laser pointer during presentations. So if you already have a Jamboard set up and you're doing a synchronous lesson and you're talking about something that maybe you have a chart or a map or a diagram on your Jamboard, the laser pointer feature allows you to circle something or draw a line between things, and then it will disappear after about a second, which is nice because you can draw attention to it, but then you don't have to worry about erasing it. It will automatically disappear. You can also save frames as PDFs or images, and I'll talk to you in a little bit about what a frame is. But just so you know, with the Jamboard, you can have multiple frames. So you can have a filled in Jamboard section, a piece, and save that and go to another one without having to erase it, which is great. And then you can download them as either PDFs or JPEG images to send to your students or to your coworkers if you've worked on something collaboratively and you want to save it. You don't have to worry about somebody taking a photo of it before you erase and all that other stuff. It's saved for you. You can share your screen for synchronous lessons, and I'll show you how I share my screen, where I'll share my Jamboard. You can do that very easily. And you can share your screen to show a lesson without sharing it with your students so that they aren't in there making changes, or you can share the Jamboard with students for collaborative work. So you can have your students work either synchronously or asynchronously on a Jamboard to share ideas, post thoughts and reflections, all of that. And that's actually the next part of what I want to talk about is how can I use Jamboard? How do I use Jamboard in my classroom? So I've already talked about a lot of these, but I just want to go over them one more time. You can show math work during synchronous lessons. And for those of you who are math teachers, you know that it's really important for a student to be able to see the process. And sometimes showing a video on it or typing it up and then walking through it if you're doing a synchronous lesson, it may not be the most effective way to show how to do, for example, a multi-step equation in algebra. So you can show that work during synchronous lessons. You can also explain charts or maps or diagrams or other visuals. You can circle things, draw lines between things. You can create your own number line and talk about how to interpret a number line or a bar graph. You can just enter those in there and then talk about it, and either synchronously or asynchronously have students answer questions about that visual. This allows students to share ideas, to brainstorm. If you had a type of project, maybe a presentation project or a report that a group of students was working on, they can share their ideas on Jamboard. They can just be free to post whatever they think would work and then organize it, make sense out of it. Jamboard, in that respect, works a lot like Padlet, where you can share ideas. It's just that Jamboard is a much more comprehensive feature than Padlet. You can have students share observations or predictions about a lesson. So what I mean by this is that you can use Jamboard either as a flipped classroom model where you give them a video and then on a Jamboard you would have them put their thoughts about it or a prediction. Maybe you're only showing the first part of a video and then you're going to show the next part, or you're showing the first part of a news article and you want them to predict what's going to happen after that. They can share that on the Jamboard. You can have them post their own reflections about their learning, either in a sticky note form or a text form or even an image. They can just post an image that reflects on how they feel. So there's a lot of different ways to be creative about that. So those are just a few ways to use Jamboard. But there are some things to note, just like any other software, any other platform. Jamboard isn't perfect. There are some limitations. So drawing with a mouse can be cumbersome. I've tried it. Your handwriting looks like a 3-year-old's handwriting. You know, that can be really cumbersome. And so you can purchase a drawing tablet with a smart pen or a smart mouse. And I am going to click on this, and I will make sure to put this link in the chat before we're done. I just can't access the chat right now, but I will put this link in the chat. And I will also be sharing some other things. Kristen has some other ideas. And so I just want to show you, this just takes you to an Amazon. It's a graphic tablet with a digital drawing pen. And so if you look at these different pictures, it kind of shows you how it works, where you use the pen on the graphic tablet surface and it will show up on your computer. So here, this picture shows how this person is using a a whiteboard type surface and they're drawing on it and it shows up on that surface. So it just plugs in with a USB and it requires no battery, which is really nice. So this one runs for about 30 bucks. And this was just one that was suggested. There were a lot of different graphic tablets and drawing pens. Kristen was just saying earlier that she had found a pen mouse. So it works like a mouse, which is perfect for use on Jamboard. And so you can always get one of those to kind of help out just with the handwriting aspect of it. Everyone with editing access, this is another thing just to note, everyone with editing access can make changes and undo all work. So you want to be careful about the type of access that you want to give students. You can give them view-only access if it's something like a synchronous lesson where you're just wanting to share the whiteboard in that you're showing how to do math work. But you can also do editing access if you want students to share ideas. And so really, it wouldn't hurt before using Jamboard with your classroom to give your students maybe a short lesson on digital etiquette or just do's and don'ts with the Jamboard, because there is an eraser feature, so they can literally erase something or delete something that someone else put on there. So you just want to be very selective. You want to be very careful about what you share and how you share it with your students. The other thing to note is that at this moment, you can't import videos into Jamboard. So like I mentioned, you could have an image up there and you can have people post ideas about the image, but you can't put a video without a Google extension. And to be very honest, I haven't tried out any of these Google extensions with Jamboard. So there's not one that I could necessarily recommend right now. There's a lot of Google extensions, and so you definitely want to be careful as well about the Google extension that you use for Jamboard or for anything with Google. But at the moment, videos just cannot be added. Okay. So let's try out Jamboard. Let's give this a try so you can see how it's used. So I'm going to just escape out of this presentation for a second, and I'm going to go over to Google. And like I mentioned, you can do this on your own, or you can just follow along with me, take a look at it, and then try it out later. So there are a couple of ways to get to Jamboard. You can always go through your apps menu. So your apps menu is going to be over there on the top right. And if you scroll, you can find Jamboard right there. That's what the logo looks like. You can also just go to jamboard.google.com. As Kristen has mentioned in previous webinars, you can always just type in the name of the app you want, .google.com, and it will take you to that app. So when you open up Jamboard, it will bring up some previous Jamboards that you have. It will save them in the cloud, just like any other Google app. If you want to create a new Jamboard, right there on the bottom right, there's that plus sign. You click that and you get New Jam. And I'm going to title this Tech Talk Jamboard. Okay. And I will share this here in a second. I will put the shareable link in the chat for you guys to get in there and try it out. I just want to show you a few things before you guys get in. So right now we have a clear Jamboard. It's just a white background. Here you have the set background option. So if I click on that, like I had mentioned before, I can change it to dots, and hopefully that's not too hard to see, but you can see all the dots. You can use that background. You can have lined paper, and you can see these lines are really thin. It would probably be a little difficult to write single line, but you can of course do double line. So if you're writing an essay, you can use the lines for that. You can have a grid for coordinate geometry, like I mentioned there, or you can change your background to blue or to black. So you have all those different background options. I'm going to just go back to the white background. And then over here on the left is your toolbar. So these are all your drawing features. You have your pen feature, which allows you to free write with your mouse or with a pen, with a digital pen. So if you click there, it gives you the option to write with a normal looking pen, a marker, a highlighter, or a brush. So you can choose the thickness of your stroke as well as the color. So if I want blue and I want to use a highlighter, it's going to be thicker than if I have just a pen. So here, I'm just writing with my mouse. You can see it's a lot thicker. If I were to change it to the pen, you're going to get a lot thinner of a line. Paintbrush is going to be lighter but thicker. Okay, so you can see the different options there for drawing. What's really great here with the erase feature is I can use my eraser here, which is my mouse eraser. That gives me a little line, so I can just erase. Maybe I just want to erase this one. I can erase it there. But if I just wanted to erase the entire thing, which I can do, I can hit clear frame. Now, if you accidentally click on clear frame and you didn't mean to do that, you always have that undo option, which is really great. So I'm going to clear my frame. You have the select feature. Now the select feature involves having other things up here. So we'll use the select feature here in a second. You can put a sticky note, which I love. I love using different sticky notes. So maybe I want to have a question that people answer. So this is my response. And anyone who is shared on this Jamboard can create a sticky note in any color they want. They can even make it white. Okay. But here, maybe I want an orange sticky note. So I hit save, and it is going to be right there. You can move it around. You can rotate it. You can also edit whatever you wrote. Okay, I'm going to cancel that because I don't want to do that. So to get to those three buttons, by the way, I just clicked on it. Okay, I can duplicate it. So maybe I want to create another one. I want it the same color. I just want to edit the wording, so I can go to edit, and I can edit my wording there. And you can have multiple sticky notes. So if you wanted your students to just post different ideas, you can do that. You can post different sticky notes. You can add an image. So maybe I want to just upload an image. You can select an image from your computer. And maybe I just want to go to, let's do an image of a city. Okay, so I have this image that I'm going to upload. And there's my image, just like a sticky note. I can rotate it. I can duplicate it. I can delete it, and I can put it in different orders. So if I had multiple images, like right now, it's actually above the sticky note, or if I had other images, it would show up that way too. I can send it to the back, and there my sticky note is on top of it. So you can have people post their sticky notes all the way around an image. You know, that's perfectly fine. Now, if I hit the select tool, it will help me to select whatever it is I'm looking for. So it's just a normal select tool where you're selecting different features on your Jamboard. So like I said, we can add an image that way. I don't want to add another one. You can add a circle. So you can just draw a circle. And maybe I want to put a big circle around my image. And you can change the order to send it behind your image. There you go. Now I have a circle. So if you're like me and you're horrible at drawing circles, I am horrible at drawing circles. This is a circle drawing feature, which is really nice because you can make it into pretty much a perfect circle, you know, or however size you want to make it, however oblong you want to make it. You can have your circle there. You also have your text box feature. So I can click right there on that T, and I can draw, or I can click, sorry, on my Jamboard. There's my text box, and I want to have maybe a set of instructions or a question that I want to put on top. So you can do that. You can make it bigger. So I just clicked on that corner. I made it bigger. Just like the other options, you can edit, duplicate, delete, or change the order. So maybe I want to send it to the back. Now it's really behind, but I do want it in the front. So I want it to be in front of everything. And you can see now that I have multiple things on my Jamboard, I can move things around so that they're not in the way. And I can delete things or edit things at will. The last thing I want to show you is the laser feature. So if I click on the laser feature, it turns red, and I'm going to circle my image, but then that's going to disappear. I can draw a line between those two things. It will disappear. So this just brings people's attention to what you're talking about. Okay, these are the instructions. Please pay attention to that. This is the image I'm looking at. So I created an arrow there. So the laser feature is really nice when you're doing a synchronous lesson. Now, if you're using Jamboard for asynchronous learning, you can create your Jamboard ahead of time. So you can ask people, I'm going to go back to my select tool. I'm going to select my text box. I can give instructions here. Post, oops, I needed to edit, my apologies. So I'm going to edit that, and I'm going to say, why didn't that work? Post your thoughts about this picture. As a sticky note. Now, of course, this is big, so I want to extend it so that it's all just on one line. And there we go. I have it at the top. I want to get rid of this circle and get rid of my sticky notes, so I can just delete those. You can leave it just like this and have people post their ideas. They can post them as sticky notes because that's your instruction, but you can say they can post it as text, or they can handwrite it. They can add their own images, all of that to this. The other great thing, like I was mentioning earlier about Jamboard, is the frames. So you can have multiple frames. So once this one is done, if it's still part of your lesson, you can just create a frame by hitting that right arrow, and now you have a second frame. So here, this is frame number 2. So maybe I just want to write that. And I want to use the highlighter feature. Frame number 2. And you can see that your first frame is still there, and now you have a second frame. If you plan on having a lesson that has multiple parts, maybe, for example, you are running a history lesson, you're talking about the Great Depression, and you want to do a frame for every significant time frame. So it would be like an interactive timeline where you have, you know, maybe a 2-year time period here, and you talk about it, and then you go to the next 2 years. You can do that. You can have many different frames, and they will all save. Now, the next thing that I want to mention is your download options. So you can download your entire Jamboard as a PDF. So if I were to do that, you can see it's pulling up for me here because I'm on Google Chrome. So it's here at the bottom left-hand corner. If I pulled it up, there it is. And you can put that to Google Classroom. You can send it to folks just so that they can have, say, for example, notes of what they were talking about. So you have that option. You can also save each frame as an image. Okay, so you can also make a copy of the Jamboard, just like you can with most other Google apps. You can just make a copy and work from the copy. But those are really excellent download features for you to save your Jamboards and use them later. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to share this. So I'm going to share it as a link. Now you, of course, can share it individually with your students or with other folks. If I want to share it as a link, I can change my permissions because it is always defaulted to restricting to only people added, meaning that anybody who I already added could use the link, but I haven't added anybody. So I want to change the permission. So I just clicked on that link down at the bottom. I'm going to change the permission to anyone with the link. Now, anyone with the link can either view or edit. I'm going to change it to edit options, and I'm going to copy the link. Now I'm done with that. I'm going to go over back to our Google Meet, and I'm going to put that link in the chat. So now everybody has a link to my Jamboard. So if you go to the chat, click on that link, and let's just follow the instructions. Post your thoughts about this picture as a sticky note. So try that out. Let's see what you guys think about this picture. It could be anything, any thought. And you'll be able to see everyone's additions as they post them. All right, we got everybody in now. As a reminder, you just have to click that sticky note feature, which is over there on the left. Click that, type your sticky note, whoops, and then hit save. And then once you hit save, just click out of the Jamboard. So I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to post something to this Jamboard. Oh, look, and they're all showing up at the same place for some reason. So I'm going to move them over, and you can see on my screen, you can see where they're being moved, and you can see other people are moving them too. So if I'm clicking on here, you can see that I am on this one, and you can see different people's icons. So I'm going to keep moving them because it looks like we got more on here. It does look like an urban city during a pandemic. I agree. This is a quarantined city for sure. To be honest, I have no idea which city this is. I just had found a random picture of a city, so there you go. I like your feedback. I really like that. So, like I mentioned, you know, I can move these around. You could even move them around. You can move others around. And if somebody wants to be brave and just add a text feature, a text box, I'm sorry, you can click there on the text box. Maybe somebody wants to type some text. I know it's not in the instructions, but I just want to give you guys an opportunity to try it out. You can also try the pen feature. Ooh, I like it. Somebody rotated their sticky note. Very cool. And I'm going to use the laser feature so I can circle what Bill had put on there. And you can see on your Jamboard, you can see my laser feature show up for a little bit. There's a little bit of a delay between when I do it and when you guys see it, but it's a very small delay. So let's see who's brave enough to write in the text box. You don't have to put your name on there if you don't want to. Oh, look, somebody added. Looks like Kristen added another image. I'm going to, oh, good. Kristen moved that too. Whoops, I'm in the laser feature instead of the, whoops, and then I put a text box. I'm going to delete that text box. There we go. I like that picture. There's palm trees in that one. That must be a Florida city. And, you know, because we do have a relatively small group, please feel free to unmute if you wanted to share any thoughts as you're doing this. I love that there's a text box that says another deserted city instead of a sticky note. I love that. Kristen, I think you did that one. So yes, please feel free to unmute or to type in the chat if you have thoughts.
Can you change the size of the text?
So
a little bit.
If you, yeah, there you go. You can click on the corner and just expand it from the corner.
Oh.
So you can, like if I were to,
yeah.
I can do that and I can make it real big.
So Jamie, the students are anonymous, but the teacher can see who posts what?
You know, the only reason I know who's posting is because their icon is showing up. So like right now, Kristen's on that image, so I can see her icon show up. If somebody is not using an NM Delta account, I probably can't see what email they're using. So that's a little bit of a bummer. You might want to ask students to put their names on their sticky notes. So if I see, okay, I've never seen a city so empty, I want to edit that and I want to just put my name on there. And I'm going to save that. You know, now you can see who posted what.
Okay.
Does anybody have any other ideas of how you might want to use this in your classroom?
The only way I've used it in my classroom so far, Jamie, is as a whiteboard for math. I haven't tried any of these other activities, but some of these could be fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the first thing that came to my mind was math, just automatically. I see a whiteboard, I think math problems. First thing that came to my mind. But you can see that there are so many different features that you could easily use this for a writing assignment. You could easily use this for a social studies assignment. I actually had one of my teachers create a set of about 10 frames, and it was a history lesson. So he posted photos, and then he asked people to post responses to those photos. He wrote his own text so that they could look at a photo and then read the text underneath it and get the lesson that way. You can put a link to a Google form if you wanted to in here. So if I created a Google form, I would just in the text, I would write a text box and I'd have a link to a Google form so that they could answer questions based on it. You can do that. So, Jamboards are really great because you can set that up ahead of time and then just have it as a view-only feature, or you can set it up where it's live and have the students participate. Because as you can see, there's so much more on this Jamboard now than there was before. And as editors, you can go into the second frame and you can write in that second frame, you can create another frame. So it's really, there's really a lot of great features for this. And especially for a free feature, this is great to use. I personally can't wait to try out a pen mouse. I really can't wait to do that. I want to try out a pen mouse. And speaking of that, I'm going to put the link for the Amazon digital tablet there in the chat. So Nadia says she's used Jamboard for a KWL assignment. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that, Nadia?
Well, I haven't had students upload to the Jamboard. I've actually just used it as like a whiteboard or a chalkboard, where I asked them just what do you. I think the assignment was we were going to watch a video about Frederick Douglass. Okay. So I just had everyone just posting to the chat about whether they know about or heard of him before we watched it, and what do you wonder about him, and just put everyone's responses on the whiteboard. Okay. Just, yeah, kind of like so that the ideas don't get lost in the chat. I've also used it to demonstrate text structure. Like I created, it wasn't the best, but I used the shapes as like, I used the arrow to demonstrate just like sequence and like filled it in and description, like stuff like that.
And I'm really glad you brought that up because I'm going to come over here into frame 2. I'm going to clear that frame and I'm just going to add a couple of circles. I love using circle diagrams for essays. So I wanted to use this as an essay planning tool.
That's a good idea.
And yeah, so I would have, my thesis statement in the middle, and then I would have my 3 reasons over on the sides, and I could just duplicate these circles to make it easy on myself. So I'm going to duplicate my circles, and I went too low with that. So I have my 3 reasons, for example, and my 3 circles, and I could just have the students use this as a planning tool for their essay, and we could even do it together. And you can use text boxes, you can free write in there. I have not, I'll admit, I have not tried this with a touch screen. I imagine with a touch screen it's also very easy, or if you have a smart pen that you can use on your touch screen, it's a lot easier. My laptop right now is not a touch screen, so I can't do that. But yeah, you can use that for using graphic organizers, like Nadia had mentioned. So that's really great. And yeah, you can have people watch a video and then come back to the Jamboard and post their thoughts, in sticky note form. Again, that way they don't get lost. Or lost in a chat, like Nadia had mentioned. Sometimes chats can get very long. This is just a at-a-glance tool to look at that.
It's sometimes good to see people's answers Like also I asked them to do summaries once, and I just copied and put it on the board so everyone can see each other's summaries. That's something, and then that's like, oh, when I look at it this way, I've noticed ABC, you know.
Yes, yes. And, you know, like Nadia was mentioning, she did it herself after they gave feedback so that it was something that was at a glance for the students to look at. You can definitely do that if, you know, you're worried that students are going to delete other people's things and you can just have it as a view-only Jamboard. Totally do that. But this is a really great way to make things visually easy to see and appealing. Are there any other thoughts or questions or ideas about how to use Jamboard?
Jamie, Bill, we're part of this Teaching Skills That Matter. One of our projects is to create a lesson plan. And I was wondering if I did it in Google Slides, is there any way to embed a Jamboard into that presentation, or do they have to go outside of Google Slides to pick that up?
That is a really great question, and I do not know the answer to that right now. I'm going to write that down, and I'm going to let you guys know what I find, because I am not sure if you can embed one way or the other, you know, embed a Google slide into Jamboard or not, or embed Jamboard into Google Slides. That's a great question, and there might even be an extension for that too.
Yeah, one of the things we have to do is make it collaborative, and this would be ideal under that situation.
I'm writing that down right now. I'll make sure to send an email to everybody with that answer once I find that. Any other thoughts or questions? Or was there anything in the chat?
Well, I said I've used Jamboards mostly when I'm presenting grammar points, and you know, so I can set it all up ahead of time, you know, and I'll go through the explanation on the first frame, and then you know, go to the second frame and start giving them some practice, you know, where they're identifying whatever it is, and then so you can have progressively difficult or different kinds of practice all in one place. And if they don't get right, you can easily go back to the explanation that was on the first frame. And I found it to be real useful for me in that way. And that's mostly how I use it. But then I teach language skills and ESL, so of course.
So
I don't do much math with my students, some, but.
Do you download it as a PDF for them, or do you just give them edit access?
I've been just letting them edit, you know, together. What I have done then sometimes is download it and post it to Google Classroom so that it's there for everybody, but we edit it together.
That's really great for synchronous learning, you know, to have folks edit text or to post new text about how to fix it. You know, if, for example, you have a sentence that needed to be fixed and you tell them, okay, fix it, but write it as text and then put your name on it so that you can see how they fixed it, and they can see each other's. That's really great. That's really great. Anything else? Well, with that, then I would like to say thank you so much for attending. This is about the normal time frame that we have for a tech talk. So, you know, I definitely appreciate you guys hanging out with me for these last 40 minutes. If you have any questions, you can always reach me at jamie@nmdelt.org. Like I said, I will follow up with the question about embedding into or out of Google Slides. And have fun. Have fun jamming with Jamboard.
Hey, Jamie, this is Nancy.
Hi, Nancy.
I spaced the time, so I barely got on. When are you going to have this up where we can see it, the recording?
No later than Monday.
Awesome, because I'm really interested, and I just was sick that I forgot the time.
Oh no. Well, yes,
Look,
I will.
Okay,
I will definitely put it up.
okay, thanks, Jamie.
You're welcome. Bye-bye, everybody.
And I am stopping the recording.
All right.